Welcome to this meeting of Pendle Council's Executive. Thank you very much for everybody coming along. Just get yourself settled. The first item on the agenda is declarations of interest. We'll do introductions in a minute. However, on declarations of interest, I am a director of the Pearl joint venture, and item 14 is an arrangement between Pendle Council and the joint venture. So I am declaring an other registerable, I can't say this one, an other registerable interest. And I will take no part in that discussion and leave the room. Asjad.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm a member of Pearl, so I don't know whether I need to declare interest as well.
Yes, we get an early bath.
So,
very good. Are there any further declarations of interest?
Item 14, one of the things we're going to be talking about, asset transfer. We're town councillors, do we need to? No, that's
No.
So I'm in the same position as a Pearl director.
Yeah. So I am going to suggest that in order to expedite things, that I move item 14 to the end of the agenda and take the other two exempt items before that. Okay. Are there any other declarations of interest that people need to declare? If not, we'll do introductions. And so my name's David Whip, and I chair the executive. I go to my left.
Dean Langton, Chief Executive.
Karen Spencer, Director of Resources.
Philip Spur, Director of Place.
Dave Hartley, Councillor for European Cold Stores. Councillor Underbell, Vivery Bridge.
Councillor Whip.
Councillor Ashcliffe, Hallsfield and Waterside.
Sarah Coburn Price, Bullsworth and Forage.
Councillor David Coburn Price, also Bullsworth and Forage.
Councillor Zafar Ali, Bradfield, East and Clover Hill.
Councillor Hanif, Bradford West and Relay.
Asjad Mahmood, Deputy Leader on Economic Growth Portfolio Audit.
Neil Watson, Assistant Director for Planning.
Paul Preston, Democratic Services Manager.
Howard Gulshaw, Head of Legal and Democratic Services.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Chair, sorry to interrupt you. Just clarify, in declaration of interest, Nelson Pride in Place, do I need, as a member, do I have to declare interest in that? I'm not sure.
What, as a member
As
of
a
the...
member from the council.
Probably worthwhile.
Yeah.
sorry, well, is this the long term?
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, it's
Well,
a 10-year plan.
so you're declaring an interest in that one. Other registrable, is it one that you need to leave the room? Howard, I'll put you on the spot.
Yeah, I'll consider that during the meeting and then when we come to it.
Okay. Well, you've got about 30 seconds. No, I haven't. You've got a little bit longer. Okay. Moving on then to item 2. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that falls into that. Nah, not really. So item 2 is public question time. Do we have any questions from members of the public? No, thank you very much. Item 3 is the minutes of the last meeting. Would somebody move those
Room, Chair.
as a correct record? Thank you very much. Is that seconded? All those in favour? Thank you. And passing those down. Right, item 4, local...
Are we moving the minutes of the 17th of November as well? No, that's the minutes.
Those are the minutes of the council. We have got them in front of us because the resolution from the council meeting relates to this item, and there is a recommendation for us to follow. So item 4, this is the meeting where we actually make a decision on local government reorganisation, our proposal, our option, and we do have a recommendation as set out in the minutes of the meeting, which is that the strategic business case for a 5 unitary model of local government in Lancashire be submitted as Pendle Borough Council's response. So we've got that recommendation of the council, and I don't think we're going to depart from that. I don't want to repeat everything that was said on Monday evening. I think we were all there, and we know what the issues are. Just briefly to update people that the County Council met this afternoon. The recommendation of the County Council to their executive, their cabinet, is that they submit a two authority model to government. As far as we're concerned, that would lead to a council, a local council, in inverted commas, of 879,500 residents, which is anything but local. The leader of the County Council, Reforms, Stephen Atkinson, went on to say that they're going to put a covering letter into government to say that if the government would change the rules, pretty please, could they have a new unitary authority that would encompass the whole of Lancashire County Council area, Blackburn with Darwen, Blackpool, which would have 1.6 million residents, and any credibility as being local, I mean, right, regional, isn't it? I understand that Kent has similarly asked if they could have a single unitary encompassing the whole of Kent. The other thing that has happened this week is that the local authority areas within the devolution priority programme, who submitted their options in September, the government are consulting on those options now. It's on the government website. The one that I've been following most closely because of its resemblance to Lancashire is Essex, and Essex has, as with Lancashire, there are several options, but Essex has the 5 unitary model, as we do as part of the proposals. So I think that gives us encouragement that our proposal will pass the test of meeting the objectives within the government's requirements, and that we can look forward at some point in the future. I'm going to ask Dean in a minute when this point may be, for the government actually consulting on the proposals that we've put forward. As far as I am aware, all the other councils in Lancashire have submitted or are submitting or will submit the bids as we expected them to, in terms of the, the 3 model, the 4 model, the 4 A, B, C, D, E, whatever models that there may be. So could I positively move that we do accept the recommendation of the full council to submit the bid, that we furthermore note the outcome of the various consultations that has been carried out, both the county-wide one and the one that we did jointly with Burnley, which showed in Pendle 9 out of 10 people supported the 5 model that we're putting forward. We note the minutes of the council meeting on the 17th of September, and that we give approval to submit the strategic business case and the related information for a 5 unitary model of local government in Lancashire, as set out in Appendix A to the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government on or before 28th of November, and in doing so give delegated authority to the Chief Executive in consultation with the Leader of the Council and the Deputy Leader to make any final minor and administrative amendments to the strategic business case as appropriate. And I mean, in part, that covers the points that David Colvin Price was making at the council meeting, where there is some tidying up to be done. And 2.5, given the deadline for submission and that this matter has been subject to consideration by council, resolve that the decision of the executive here is urgent and not subject to calling as set out in part 4 of the overview of scrutiny procedure rules 15 open brackets H close bracket. So if I can move that and look to Asjad.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm happy to second the proposal that's been set out with the recommendation from full council that we support the 503 model for local government in Lancashire. I think points have been well made at the full council, so we don't need to be repeating ourselves. I think the key thing is, we will get the 2 votes on the strategic decision making body, which gives it East Lancashire, more influence in the key decisions, to improve quality of life for local people. And then, we've got to be ambitious and put in the right team to deliver top quality services and make it a success.
Thank you. Are there any further comments that want people to make? People want to make, sure they get your words in the right order. If not, can I put that to the vote? All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. And I look forward, Dean, to your further work on dotting the I's and crossing the T's and getting it all signed off, and we'll dispatch it by courier or whatever. Marvellous. Don't trust Royal Mail. Thank you very much, and I've lost my agenda now. Item 5 is the Nelson Pride in Place, which Asjad.
Yep, Chairman, I'm content that the interest has been declared, and that I'm also content to advise that if Councillor Mahmood wants to participate fully and vote, he can do.
Very good. Okay, so the substance of this is that, the substance of this is that the community board, wherever it's called now, has to put proposals into government. The work so far is quite generic. It doesn't have all the flesh on the bones, but as a council, it's imperative that we agree to be the accountable body, and as such, it's down to the executive to agree that. And I would move the recommendation in the report in order that we can get forward with this. Clearly, this is money that is flowing from government specifically for Nelson. There is the impact fund, which we'll be discussing at the next executive, and that will be funding that will permeate other parts of Pendle. So, Asjad.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second the proposals. I think the document very clearly lays out that the plan aligns and with our council plan, and the 4 areas that they've identified, I think they're listed within the report. It's high quality services, facilities, crowded connected communities and places, good growth, housing, and healthy communities. So that's the recommendation for this to be set up, and let's hope it's it has an impact and it's successful as well.
Thank you very much. Any further comment or questions? If not, we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. That's carried. And the next item, item 6, is the local transport plan. And could I invite Councillor Lorderwhip to introduce this one? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the transport plan sets out our consultation response to the draft that's been published. essentially the local transport plan sets out sort of overarching values that they're going to develop further things with. I think the key thing for us, we need to be quite clear that Pendle should be on any maps that are published with it. I had a look this afternoon. The two plans at the beginning of the document, maps there, don't show the whole of Pendle on. It's missing out West Craven. I think we need to have a very strong representation that all of Pendle should be included within the document. I'm quite supportive of the move to include social and environmental value in this sort of document. I think the previous tax of financial only is sort of an unsustainable model to base the plans of transportation infrastructure on. So overall, I'm quite pleased with that, and I'm happy to move the recommendations.
Thank you very much. Okay, Asjad?
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to kind of second the report. One thing I would say is, like, you know, because this is going to be a strategic county, well, regional kind of document, potentially which the mayor could kind of, you know, whenever the mayor comes in the kind of being, will run with this document. I know there might be a difference of opinion on this, but I think we've got to make our case for the west-east connectivity. Whatever form that takes, you know, it will take time, but that's the only way we're going to get some proper good growth, jobs-wise, the economic growth, you know, improving the quality of life and all that kind of thing. The finer detail, we can work on, but the key thing is that, you know, we either have the rail link or some kind of west-east connectivity and make it successful again.
Thank you very much. I mean, just to unpack a bit of the background to this, this is part of the Lancashire County Combined Authority responsibilities. I think it is currently at a very high level, but I agree that it is crucial that we get investment in the transport improvements at this end of the county, which we have not seen since the M65 was built. We've got a East Lancashire line that more often, being unfair there, that a lot of the time fails to get through to Colne, the rail route. We need a passing, in the very short term, we need a passing place for rail. I think it would be desirable in connection with reopening the Colne to Skipton section that that route is electrified, and we can go on in that vein, but the risk is that the Combined Authority, as Councillor Lawlerwick points out, will miss us off the map, literally miss us off the map. So I think that point was very well made, and if we don't manage to effect some improvements, then we're going to be looking at donkey's years before we get anything. Lola, do you want to respond to the discussion?
To add to it, if I can, just on the public transport, I mean, the plan looks to innovate in sort of public transport, but I don't think we really need to innovate because we've got solutions that work and are proven to work across the country and across Europe, but we just haven't had the investment here in the first place, or we have previously and it's been ripped out in the Beeching report. So I think we just need to see a better assignment of funds to that sort of infrastructure taking place, because currently the only infrastructure improvements are going into the road network, which is not a sustainable model to continue to only fund. So I think we need to be very clear that we're not looking for innovation, we're just looking for people to
bread and butter.
Yeah.
And I think just to emphasise that point, other areas take for granted what we aspire to get, and you know, we should be expecting to get the same level of resources, at least equity, with other areas when it comes to the investment in that sort of infrastructure. And at County Hall this afternoon, I was making the point that, you know, Crossrail cost billions, so that bankers and their ilk could get into Canary Wharf, you know, easier. And you know, yet the government, any government, would look askance if, you know, a fraction of that money was being spent on that sort of infrastructure in the north of England. Asdred.
Just a quick point. And the thing is, having that rail link benefits the whole of, not just that Pendle, the whole of Lancashire and Liverpool and Yorkshire. You know, the freight kind of, I'm just generally saying, but the freight kind of element from, say, like Hull to Liverpool, you know, it can, you know, it can reduce the carbon footprint, the traffic on M62. So again, I think maybe we need to make some contact. I mean, we've had previous discussion with the Mayor of Manchester before. Maybe we should have a conversation with Andy Burnham and the Liverpool Mayor, and also the Yorkshire Mayor. You know, see if how they can pull through levers to support our, you know, our vision, if you will.
Thank you. Are there any further comments? If not, it's been moved and seconded. Show of hands. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 7. This is Lancashire County Council's proposals to close care homes and day centres. We have in Pendle, we've got Faverdale, which is down for what they call accelerated reprovision, which is code for closure, together with Byron View Day Centre. Byron View Day Centre is attached to Faverdale. It hasn't operated as a day centre since COVID, and it is being used for activities, training days and the like by adult social services, but not for the purpose that it was intended. As far as Faverdale is concerned, it's a home that is hugely admired and respected by residents and their families, and families of residents cannot praise the home highly enough. They point out that not only is there a caring ethos at the home, but it is a loving ethos, and that they feel that the family members, the older family members, are loved when they go there. The home has a good rating by CQC. In terms of the accelerated reprovision, the County Council identified Faverdale and the other 9 facilities, care homes and day centres, because supposedly of the high refurbishment costs to bring them up to an acceptable standard. However, my view is the real reason is that the County Council desperately want to cut £50 million out of adult care budget, and by closing these homes and day centres they would save 4.1 million. The also in the report that they accepted at the Cabinet meeting in October, they spelt out that the capital receipt for selling off the land and buildings for the whole 10 would amount to between £4 and £5 million. So the real driver is cuts and there's, in terms of the report that the County Cabinet accepted, they were saying that private sector is cheaper, which is a bit at odds with what we know about the costs that people are having to pay if they go into private sector homes in Pendle. So I think you could take a lot of this with a big pinch of salt. The other thing that the current consultation is doing is setting the ground rules for the wider review of the remaining in-house provision that the County Council has. And those ground rules are something that they call the evaluation framework. And the evaluation framework that they're asking people about is fundamentally flawed. The weighting given to the quality of care is minuscule. It's 6.5% of the overall assessment is 6.5% for quality of care, and the condition of property is double counted, so that adds up to something like 40%. Don't quote me on that one because I'd have to look it up. But it really is a very unbalanced way of looking at things, and given the comments from family members and given the CQC rating for Faverdale, the disparity between condition and evidence on the ground of quality is disturbing. The consultation itself, and I have got a copy of it. Yeah. I haven't introduced it yet. Yes. The consultation itself is confusing. It asks leading questions, and it's virtually impossible for anyone to answer those questions and express their views without doing it very tortuously. So I think in terms of our response as a council on this consultation, that we need to put it in our own words rather than tick the boxes and use the narrative that the County Council would like us to do so. It's very unfortunate that Lancashire County Council, since they agreed to consult on closures, together with the ground rules that I mentioned, have gagged staff, preventing staff from actually talking to members and telling people what is going on. They have closed Faverdale to new residents, so they're not taking new residents. That's the same for all the other homes as well. And unfortunately, they banned banners. So the Friends of Faverdale put some banners up there, and County Council have made them remove them. So residents and families were rightly appalled to the closure plan, and we launched a petition which attracted 3,000 signatures in the very first week that we set it going. It's now approaching 4,000 signatures. The business case that, again, I've got a copy of it here, if anybody wants to look at it, it told you all about how much they could save revenue-wise. It told you all about how much they could get as capital receipts. There is not one penny piece in here to actually carry out improvements. Now, some county councillors would have it that, it's all about, how we can improve our services, but that it's just rhetoric, really. At the very back of the report, and this is my printed copy, it's in blue on the official one, there's a schedule showing that residents in the remaining of the care homes next February would be started to be placed in alternative accommodation, private sector accommodation, following the County Council's decision on the 5th of February. The second week in February, residents would be moved out, and staff would be receiving the notice just a few weeks later. So don't let anybody kid you that their decision wasn't to go ahead with closure. Now, the County Council referred to, and some of them were there on Wednesday last week when the Faberdale, Friends of Faberdale had a public meeting, and the reform rhetoric seemed to have shifted a bit. First of all, going back a few weeks, they said it's all about making improvements. Then it's all the fault of the last administration at County Hall, which, I mean, it definitely wasn't, because the decision was made in October. And the last thing that they've been saying is, well, it's all the fault of officers. So, you know, you can't get a good argument, blame the officers. I did say that at the County Council this afternoon. The County Council in charge of this operation, County Councillor Dalton, told the BBC when he was asked, could this lead to closures, he said it very well could. So there is no doubt what their intentions were. Now, I believe that public pressure could force a change of heart, and I think that this council can put its shoulder to that wheel by responding with a strong response to the consultation that they're carrying out. And because Mr Langton has been busy on other things like local government reorganisation, we haven't formulated the precise wording of what that would say, but I would propose that we do respond forcefully in opposition to the closures, and that the detail of that case be delegated to Mr Langton and myself to determine. So I'm going to put that on the table, and I will then open it for I'll let Asjad come in because he might want to second, and then
I can second the proposal that's been moved. Just briefly, I mean, we're talking about people's lives here. They might be able to get places in the private sector, but the cost is going to spiral, and some people will not be able to afford, and that's going to have a very detrimental effect on the quality of life, on their health and well-being, and not just on the people that are going to be based within those centres, but also the families, because there's a knock-on effect, mental health, psychologically, and other things. And like you say, David, I think the intention has always been closure. I mean, this is just like a retrospective, it's a retro kind of move. We should be like providing services for the people who are in the most need, and we're going in the opposite direction here. And that's another service that the Reform County Council is cutting in here in Pendle, and not detriment to the people of Pendle. Not good.
Thank you very much. One point I forgot to make earlier on is that of course delayed discharges affect the whole of the health sector as well as social care. So if you don't have the capacity to accommodate people coming out of hospital, even on a short-term basis, then you are compounding and backing up problems that flow right back to accident and emergency and acute services that are our hospitals. Yeah. Sarah, was it yourself?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the whole thing has just been so confusing, and I'm not a county councillor, of course, so I haven't heard what the county council has to say. It just, from my perspective, it's in my ward, it's so confusing. Is this about quality of care? Is this about having a different model of care? Because some of the documentation seems to suggest it's to do with supporting older people in their homes, which I'd be pro, but there is a point where you can't continue there. But the consultation as it stands doesn't really give you enough information to respond. So they say, well, we haven't done a condition report on Faverdale. And as a local councillor, I would say, and I mentioned it to Ash over the summer, I said, oh, they're spending loads of money on Faverdale, they've painted the outside, they've done all of this is boding well. So on the one hand, why would you spend money, obviously, on kitchens or whatever, when you want to close it? Then I've been to one of those meetings. I couldn't go to the second one because we were away. But I went to the first one. I heard what you had to say, Councillor Whip, and I was like, right, and I've read the documents. And then Councillor Atkinson, who is in the Reform group and is the councillor for Cone, stood up and said, this is not happening. The whole thing is ridiculous. It's not being closed. And I will resign 100% if it closes. And people pressed her in the room, is this so? And she said, I am adamant. I am completely adamant. So then I left that meeting thinking, you're in Reform, you're saying this. I'm a person that sort of trusts people who sound adamant. You were there, weren't you, Andy?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But then you read the document and it says something else. So at Cone Area, we were really keen to respond. It's obvious from our residents how beloved this facility is. We were keen to respond to the consultation, but there wasn't the information to respond to the consultation. So we asked a load of questions over a month ago about condition, about different care models, about what would happen if they closed it, how would people be housed, could it be that a private operator could take it over? We asked all of those sort of surrounding questions. Councillor Atkinson came to Cone Area and she was against us asking the questions. She said all the questions are irrelevant, but they are the questions you would ask in a real consultation if you wanted the answers. So we came to Cone Area last week and I had asked David in advance, have we heard from them? He said no. Came to that item on the agenda. A whole month has passed. We'd said it was urgent, we want to be responding. Silence. So now I feel even more confused by it. Why aren't they providing the information? Why go out to consultation and not provide the information? The mixed messages, it's just so strange. It's deeply strange. I think you're right. I think if it has been on local television, I think if we campaign, we show the love, perhaps they'll step away from the abyss and say it was never intended, it was always about bathroom provision or whatever. But they've not presented that information. That's my point. If it is about bathroom provision or size of lifts, why hasn't that information been presented? We still, none of us have responded to the consultation. We've been waiting for more information. And I think that's the thing that I would like the Pendle Council thing to say, really. I would like to say that people have not been empowered with the information to properly respond to the consultation. But it does seem, I'm not going to say dubious, odd. Very, very odd way to go about things.
I use the words confusing and leading in terms of the I'll put it in inverted consultation, because no one of us would say that people shouldn't remain in their own homes for as long as possible. There's a document called Better Lives in Lancashire, which you need to sort of look at that in order to understand the thrust, but essentially the keeping people in their own homes, living independently, is the mantra of the county council, and they dismiss the concerns that leaving somebody in their own home on their own, and they get 4 care visits a day. And I think Andy could speak to this one. If people are going to a day centre, or if people are in a care home, you know, they're socialising. they're not isolated. There's a difference between independent and isolated, and I think it could well end up that people live isolated lives which would not be satisfactory at all. In terms of this afternoon, we had a full county council meeting considering local government reorganisation, but it was an ordinary meeting, and we had quite a lot of discussion on the care home closures. I mean, my request was that they ditch the decision. There is a lot of reasons why that should be the case, not the least that because it's a very welcome thing to do, but they are depending on out-of-date condition surveys. After a lot of prompting and forcing of the issue, they've agreed to carry out fresh condition surveys, but they won't be available until the consultation period is virtually ended. So whatever is different as a consequence of the condition surveys, the new ones, won't be taken into account, feed into the decision in February next year. So yeah, not good. My belief is that we can force the county council to do a U-turn on this, and I think we just put maximum effort into achieving that result. Lola, and then Andy.
Thank you, Chair. I would venture to say it's confusing on purpose. I mean, this is straight out of Trump's playbook, and we all know that Farage is a fan of Trump. Trump's administration in the US made decisions that left millions of people without any health care. And I think that sort of ultra right-wing mindset that Reform as a party are pushing towards is cutting public spending no matter the human cost, and we're seeing that in Favourdale, and I think we're seeing that march to human suffering, which is caused by people penny pinching like that on a scale that's unimaginable. And thankfully we have the sort of checks and balances in place at the moment where that decision can't be made straight away, and we've got this period where things can be overturned, but they're purposefully muddying the waters, making it confusing as possible. And let's be fair, there's probably an element of they don't have the ducks in a row, because I mean half of them are ex-Conservatives and the other half don't know what they're doing, never been a councillor before in their lives. So I mean the administration's being told what to do, and they're just making poor decisions for poor outcomes, and just hopefully they'll listen. I mean, it's a desperate bid by an incompetent administration to deliver their promises of cutting the budget to make savings no matter the cost of human lives.
Thank you. We'll include in the response a desperate bid by an incompetent administration, Dean, shall we?
Those are words I can't use today, Chair.
Thankfully I can.
Okay. Yeah, but if I sign the letter, I could put it on as a PS.
What you do, Chairman, is yours.
Andy?
Yeah. Same as Sarah, went to that first meeting. I was fortunate I went to the second meeting as well. And in between, obviously we went to Preston, we had the executive who, the fatal words of, we have to make the difficult decisions.
Through me, Andy.
Sorry, through the chair, sorry. So when I heard that, it was straight away, like you said previously, it's as soon as you hear that, that's cuts. That's a decision that's been made. Talking to the friends of residents and the friends of Favourdale and everyone else, when they received letters saying, you've got your 80 days notice, I went through that a few years ago for redundancy. And that's what it sounded like. They were getting their notification of, this is consultation, in 80 days, 90 days, you might be out of a job. It annoys me that we mentioned the Reform Party, and there was actually a thing today in the news where they are a party legally, but in name only. They are a business.
Company.
Limited company, they're a business, and it seems to be one person who cannot be unelected or related. He makes the decisions and it filters down. And when I read that, it was like, yes, this is true. This is what's happening. Whatever he's saying, every party, where they are, they're saying exactly the same. Nobody's arguing with it. Now, when we went to that first meeting, we had a lot on social media of we're telling lies. We are misrepresenting, we are misleading people. That's not just the social media, but people who are within the care homes, people who are friends and relatives, but we are telling lies. Funnily enough, there's a by-election coming up and the tune has changed from we're telling lies, they're not closing it, to we're trying to save it as well. And to me that's a confusing message when the same person was telling everybody that we are telling lies, saying no, it's not closing, it's just a review to see how much money needs to spend. We've seen the documentation and it does not say anything about investment into the buildings. It's all about what can we get, what's the market value, what's the market share we could push into. And I understand that throughout the county a lot of MPs are also getting behind this for their own care homes. A report today from the care home in Great Harwood, when they got told, oh, this was a decision that was made in 2024 by the previous administration. I said, well, if there was a list, that was not on the list, but it's on the list now. So there's still a lot of misinformation. There is a lot of misrepresentation. But as we as a borough and this care home, and it's not just residents, they are our community, we have to do what we can. And I agree wholeheartedly, we need to get behind this and send our response back to Lancashire County Council with the force of the MPs that are getting involved, or the borough councillors that are getting involved, the boroughs that are getting involved. I hope they stop, sit up and listen. They can't just turn around and say, we are going to make this decision for savings. They've also got to realise they're not just realising to a small proportion of their followers, they've got a larger responsibility to every single person within this county.
Thank you. Sarah.
May I ask a question of you, Andy? Because obviously I didn't go to the second meeting, but my ears pricked up at the beginning when you were speaking there. We have to make the difficult decisions. Who said that?
That was County Councillor Dalton at the executive meeting in Preston.
Okay.
Now, at one of the comments that was made through the chair, if you like, that there was, after the first meeting, there was a lot of comments saying that County Councillor Nathan McCollum was not invited. It was replied to, they said all county councillors were invited, same as the town.
We're not going into...
No, but it was more a case of we're showing that presence as a community rather than...
Okay.
Sorry.
Yes. Anything further? Okay. So the proposal is that we delegate authority to the Chief Executive and myself to send them a response, and I think, sorry.
To check, there's a reference there to the executive information. I don't know if that
well, if the representative for Health and Leisure wants to participate as well, I'm more than happy to. Yeah.
What I'm saying is quite good.
I mean, I'm quite well versed in this one. So okay. Thank you very much. Right. So we've got a resolution there. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Cheers. Item 8, performance update report. So this is Councillor Hartley.
Yeah,
and
well,
I think
it does sort of cover both our portfolios. So I'll lead off, I think. It's a performance update report for the second quarter. And I think it looks very good. There's a lot of good things in there that the council are hitting, and they should be, the people involved should be praised because they're working in difficult times. as my old headmaster will say, there's room for improvement.
You had a headmaster rather than a head teacher then,
yes,
David.
So room for improvement. But there always is, and there are things that are ongoing. So yeah, we do have a monthly meeting with Marie just to discuss things, how things are going. So we do have a between myself and Andy and Marie, we have a video thing that we talk over and raise points. And yeah, I think we're going in the right direction. Andy, have you any?
Yes, one of the things that was raised at the last meeting was for sickness and absences. On that one, there has been several instances of long-term sickness where these were either pre-planned operations which were they were known about prior. So you see, it's one of those that's coming up. But one of the things that was raised was the physical injuries that are being picked up through manual labour. But one of the things that we're looking at is intervention through looking at through PLT of getting physio or exercises to try and alleviate to return to work at a quicker rate than if they had to go to the doctors and wait for the NHS to get a longer term return. So they are looking at a shorter turn rate, should we say. But it is something that is in hand.
Thank you very much. If we look at the risk register, one of the issues there, and we've discussed this previously, is information governance, where there are concerns there. Are you able to assure the executive that we're trying to get a grip on that?
Yes, we've had assurances that this is.
Never believe assurances.
Yeah, we've definitely been given that it's well underhand, and there are things going through the pipeline now to make all the changes that are required. Legally standing, we are in a good position, and it's just a case now of when these have gone through proof tested, if you like, and to be accepted through the HR and through the IT systems.
Okay, thank you. Are there any additional comments from officers? Dean?
Just in relation to information governance, so I've come in new, haven't I? So one of the things I'm mindful of is it is an under-resourced area, so I've agreed that we will increase the resource in that area because it's needed in order to maintain and to build on the improvements that have been made and make sure they are sustained, because it's quite a broad area of activity, and it's important that we're doing the things that we need to do in that area.
Thank you very much.
Equally, Karen and Howard have been working on this together, trying to push it forward. So.
Good, lovely, thank you. So you move in between, you move into the report and second in it? Yeah? Thank you very much. Any comments over here? Any? David?
Thank you. Yeah. Just a question about in the covering report, para 3.5. We talk about the housing and regeneration milestones, and a couple I'm interested in. Lomershey Phase 2. Obviously, we're looking at the potential objections and the issues and whatever. Do we have a way forward on that one? Is that moving promptly, speedily, efficiently towards some sort of planning application? Or?
Well, are we on Lomershey Phase 2 or Lomershey Phase 3?
Well, it says Phase 2. That, I presume, is the sort of northern western bit.
Well, Phase 2 is, in my eyes, where we have the radiator place. That was Phase 2.
Right.
And I think that any further development there is Phase 3. Neil?
Yes, there is some confusion about phases 1, 2 and 3, but phase 2 is the extension, the lower extension of Lomershey. Phase 3 is the upper. The upper section is what we're talking about. There's a technical start happening on that, and we anticipate them being on site in earnest around about February.
Right, oh, that's quite good. That's quite good. The other one was on Bunkers Hill. long-running saga of Bunkers Hill. So this, of course, is one of the sites in the co-neighbourhood plan. It's been master planned. We've got lovely designs for how the three owners, I believe there are, or three interested parties anyway, how they can get together and get some progress on it. I'm aware of what the access issues are, so I shan't name any names there, but obviously I hope that the discussions can continue to overcome that one. Japanese knotweed, let's try and get that treated sooner rather than later.
Sorry, I just guffaw at that.
Japanese knotweed?
No, I mean, getting it treated. I remember that the late Councillor Tony Greaves was trying to get it eradicated on Bunkers Hill.
Well, that was
I'm going back.
He was more obsessed by the donkey than had to die.
I'm going back about 15 or 20 years, but go on. Right.
It would be dead now if we treated it, though, wouldn't it? The donkey.
Well,
the donkey died.
Oh, hey, Dean's got an answer.
This is one of those things where you see, like you think's dealt with and done and dusted, but it seemingly hasn't been. So when I was here first time round, we did have a programme to deal with the knotweed, to get rid of it. We had something called the Environment and Action Group, if you recall, who went on and did the injection and all of that stuff. And seemingly, despite all of that, there's still knotweed there. So I think, given it's one of those invasive species that just sticks around, it's just an incredibly difficult thing to deal with and costly as well.
Yeah.
So we acknowledge there's an issue. We have to deal with it.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't know whether...
Very little to add through the chair. The knotweed is being dealt with. As Dean mentioned, it is a very, very difficult issue to deal with. But Bunkers Hill as a development site is actively being progressed by the Head of Economic Growth in consultation with the developer. So we are very, very keen to bring forward plans as soon as we possibly can. Obviously depends on the knotweed and various other issues, but it's very much on the to-do list and high on the to-do list.
Thank you.
Is it on this particular aspect? I'll let David carry on and bring you in a minute.
So then just to roll forward to the strategic risk register, obviously we look at this in lots of different forums. The Accounts and Audit look at it, various other places look at it. So we're still seemingly quite optimistic on financial sustainability, the first one. And various things look like things like organisations' internal capacity to deliver. Now, unless we're going to recruit lots of extra resource, then we're not going to have the opportunity to lower those risk scores. We need to almost just accept where they are and manage around them. Obviously, I'm pleased by SRO 4, delivery of the local plan. We know that's progressing very well through its examination. Announcements to follow shortly, I think. And the final one was the leisure review, third from the end there. So is there any update on the leisure review? Because that sort of, we did lots of huffing and puffing and toing and froing, and consultants came in and wrote lots of reports and came up with lots of numbers and things, and we invested in lots of things, and the Leisure Trust, I believe, is doing some good works. The new Chief Exec is root and branch review, so hopefully that will help with the leisure review and the scoring.
In terms of our leisure facilities, we are in the midst of a multi-million-pound investment in making them more sustainable, both financially and environmentally sustainable. And we are not intending to undertake further strategic reviews as an administration. We can see as way to maintaining those facilities through to local government reorganisation. A question will be how we discuss with the Leisure Trust the ongoing relationship beyond 2028, and I think those are the issues that will be at the top of our agenda in terms of those leisure facilities. So you will see more work being done in the coming months in terms of energy efficiency and helping them to be sustainable as possible when they go into the new unitary authority, whatever shape or form that may take.
Okay, I assume we might have some proposals from them for the budget review this springtime?
We will be expecting the Leisure Trust to share the financial burden, and we look forward to seeing what their proposals are.
Thank you.
Ajah.
Thank you, Chair. Just a comment really on 3.9, the waste services. LCC acknowledges that Pendle is recycling more than our neighbours and also collecting more waste through the non-recycling schemes such as the bulky household collection. So I think that's positive in many ways. Just in relation to the staff sickness, what kind of support are we providing through you, Chair? Just for our information more than anything. You know, with the long-term sickness and you know.
Support for people on long-term sick, and obviously.
Yeah, that was mentioned prior, Chair, that they are speaking with PLT, so looking at doing like physio treatments through PLT, because that would make a shorter route to rehabilitation to enable a quicker return to work. But at the moment, like I said earlier, there was a few cases where they've had planned operations, and these are the ones they're also in this. So it's not somebody pulling a sick day tomorrow, it's a planned operation where they're now doing recovery before they come back to work.
It's good to have this fast track system.
Okay, I mean, one member of staff has a triple bypass and has returned to work after an extended period of absence. I remember when I had my triple bypass, I had it in October, and I was going up ladders in January taking Christmas trees down, but it didn't half hurt, I'll tell you. Anything further on these reports? Nope. Can we accept it's been moved and seconded? All those in favour? Thank you very much. And item 9, revenue and capital budget monitoring report. And this is mine, and I'll just have to find it. But we've got a variance on the budget which is in the order of £750,000, £740,000 when I last looked anyway, and the thrust of the report is that we will be taking steps to pull that back in the current year so that we don't end up with an outturn of that scale. In terms of the longer term planning, we've got the medium term financial plan on the agenda as well, so I don't want to go into that very much at all. The big, I'm still not on the right report, sorry. The big change in terms of an increase, where's it gone? There we are, 343,000 in the table 2 there, and that's the exempt accommodation, temporary accommodation. To some extent that is an accountancy thing, in that it has been within some of the other figures. However, am I allowed to say about how people are ripping us off?
I wouldn't be so...
Okay, all right then. So, part of this is to do with owners of properties exploiting chinks in the system to extract public money which they would not necessarily should be eligible to, and it's all to do with I can't say fiddling, it's all to do with
do you want me to explain?
exploiting the way that housing benefits work in terms of people who are exempt, and it ends up that the public purse at Pendle Council has to pick up the tab. I can see Asjad looking querulous, so we will get a proper explanation of you, Dean, in a moment. But that's just one element of of this £743,000, £742,000 that we have currently got on the books as beyond the budget. You can see in the table at the bottom of the second page there that Pendle Rise is expected to cost us another £165,000, and Colne Market, there's a £40,000 figure there as well. And this is the temporary accommodation, because it's running on longer than we originally anticipated. So you can see how those variances are made up there. As I said, the big one, exempt accommodation. And Dean, do you want to unpack that one, please?
Yeah, so in essence it is exempt accommodation and temporary accommodation. So the temporary accommodation is to do with our housing of people who present themselves homeless. So that's not an issue that's necessarily unique to Pendle, but there are, as you're probably aware, an increasing number of people who are homeless and need housing, and we're required to do that. And in some of those instances we can't reclaim the full amount of housing benefit. Exempt accommodation is something a bit different. That's where in some instances accommodation is being provided to vulnerable people who both need accommodation but also need support, and that's an area across the country where councils are faced with increasing costs, because there are some less scrupulous landlords out there who are coming forward with properties and offering both accommodation and support, but may not necessarily then be providing that support that's necessary to those vulnerable people. Now, this is an issue that the government is aware of. There is something called the Supported Housing Improvement Programme that's been in place for a number of years, and you may be aware there's something called the Supported Housing Act that's been enacted, that the government is in the process of implementing, albeit it will take some time to implement, and that will lead to a licensing regime being introduced by councils in order to control this kind of accommodation. But in the meantime, we are faced with a significant amount of work to ensure that the benefit that we pay is legitimate and the level of support is being provided.
Is that okay, Astrid? Have you got further comments?
Just a general comment on the report, but not, yeah, just on the temporary accommodation. I mean, did we get some additional funding from the government, and how are we kind of performing in that sense? And also, what was I was going to ask you another question? It's gone out of my head.
In terms of the additional funding,
yeah.
Yes, we did get some additional funding, but that didn't meet the entirety of the cost. The other thing that we're doing, as you recall, is investing in having our own properties or constructed within RSL in order to reduce the cost of temporary accommodation, and that programme is underway, and we can look to see the benefit of that in the coming months. But in the meantime, there is an issue about the cost of temporary accommodation, a national issue, which we are bearing our bit of it. So the government funding doesn't cover those costs, and this is part of the issue as well.
And I think through you, Chair, if we can continue to lobby the government for some additional funding for this aspect, whether we contact or ask for more funding, and hopefully I think we put some funding towards our own investment in properties back in the last budget process. So hopefully that will come together as well. In the long term, would benefit.
Yeah, we're aiming to have a report. I think it's to December on that. Philip.
Through you, Chair, South Chair, very, very briefly. We're in the process of applying our first two properties through the funding that's been allocated from that programme. As Council Whip said, we'll bring in a more full update report to the December executive, so you can see progress that's been made and how we'll continue things forward.
Okay, thank you. David.
Thank you, yes. Always my favourite report, this one. I love the optimism of Councillor Asjar to actually lobby the government for additional funding. I mean, Rachel's not doing the budget next week. Perhaps she could squeeze something in, a late adjustment perhaps. You know,
You don't ask, you don't get.
put a few taxes up just to pay for it. Marvellous. I'm intrigued by the as you said, there's an overspend in this first half. So in that table on 3.3, we've got an overspend of 465,000 on the first half. Sorry, an underspend, sorry. An underspend of 465. And then by the end of the year, we'll end up with a 742,000 overspend. So we've got a big £1.2 million swing in the second half of the year. And although the table sets out some of the numbers, I just wonder, is there any other flesh on the bones you can give about why our second half budget is so far out? I mean, $1 million as in, it's like a sort of 10% out, as it were.
Okay, I'll look to Karen on that one.
So one of the big numbers there is MRP. We're predicting to overspend by MRP, and the budget is in the latter end of the year, so that's one of the big numbers. I think it's just timings. The other differences are just timings and how we've budgeted for it. We phase the budgets at the beginning of the year, and if things just don't come in at the time we're expecting, then it can just slow down a little bit.
So are there any potential uncertainties for the next quarter or so which you're hoping might not then materialise, or are you now fairly happy with the sort of second half assumptions and the flow of money, etc.?
If you look at the recommendations, you'll see that we're not content with the position as it's set out, and that we will be taking action to look at what we could adjust in order to get it more in kilter.
I remember the last meeting we had where we did have some additional money, and I think you cheerily said that you'd found some more money down the back of the sofa and that we could spend money on extra things. So presumably as you were leaning over to pick the money out of the sofa, your wallet fell out of the other pocket, I think. Do you have any flesh on the bones about plans, or is this something we're going to have to bring a little list?
I mean, some of it is work in progress, but Dean's keen to come in at this point.
Yeah. Well, I think you know my background with this kind of stuff is. So
you've got an accountancy background.
Indeed. So there's an opportunity for me with my experience with working with Karen to have a look at this stuff a bit more closely and see what we can do to try to bring the budget back into balance. That's going to require a bit of work to do that. So at this point, it's not easy to say what that will be. The commitment is that we'll look at it more closely and look at the budgets to make sure it's properly aligned to what we're doing, and out of that may come opportunities to ensure the budget is brought back within balance by the year end.
Okay. I mean, I know we get lots of recommendations from the various heads of service about potential savings, potential revenue opportunities, etc. And I think we as councillors just need to be a little bit braver and bolder when it comes to supporting some of those requests. You know, savings can be made, extra income can be generated, and as you say, those numbers have to be balanced. So let's see what comes forward, really, and we can work on the list. You could always look at the last Conservative group budget, actually, from last springtime. There was a very good list of ideas in there, and again, it was echoing what the heads of service were suggesting.
Very good. We're not going to be having cold water swimming at West Craven Pool.
You know there are health benefits.
You might think that
endorphins.
We're hardy creatures, but that is not going to happen. And in terms of the Conservative budget earlier this year, you were including things in there that we're going to be doing anyway, so those things will happen, and we will make the savings without making cuts, which I think is a significant difference. Asjad, no, you don't want to come back. Right.
I've got a few more little specific points.
Annie, sorry. Yeah. Oh, sorry, David.
Just a few more specific ones. Software licences. An extra couple of 100,000 on software licences. I'm sure we budgeted for some.
Yeah.
But have certain suppliers gone?
You've heard the answer on this one. That our laptops were not upgradable to Windows 11, and therefore there's been a big lump in terms of the licensing, which we didn't anticipate at budget setting time. Current, is there anything to add to that?
That was the hardware though, wasn't it?
So the laptops were hardware, that was in the capital, but the licensing, so we had slightly under budgeted, but also the software firms have increased the charges significantly this year, which we hadn't factored into the budget, not the full extent.
And down the bottom of that page, we've got the savings. Now, one of the big ones we talked about at the last meeting was the idea of the pension contributions. I think I saw in a later report we've got some handle on potentially what the pension savings might be.
We're straying into the mid-term financial plan in terms of that question, so we'll pick it up there.
Do you want to talk about a capital programme or not?
You can ask whatever you like, David.
So the capital programme, obviously it brings out the slippage. We've still got 1 or 2 delays on 1 or 2 of the big projects. Nelson and Cone, their revamps are dragging on a little bit. Particularly on the empty homes CPO, which I think we all support, this idea of $500,000 plus.
600,000.
Are we looking at, is the new empty homes officer going to be developing a prioritised list? Because I know he's working across the borough to identify a big long list of things. He's got a big long list in Cone, which we discussed.
We're bringing a report to the executive in December. The executive will consider how to allocate that funding and developing a programme. It won't be the empty homes officer, it will be here.
I saw on the work plan, I think you only mentioned West Craven in that potential CPOs. And I just wonder, are we covering the rest of the borough as well?
My steer to officers is that there needs to be a spread across the borough.
Okay. That's it for me.
Very good.
Thank you.
Hanif? No? Okay. Right. We've discussed the financial stuff there. There is one further point that I want to pick up, and that is in terms of the Earby flood alleviation scheme, because you'll see in the can't find it now, paragraph
3.19.
3.19. No. Well, that's the removal area has 3 schemes. That is the it's 3.18. Sorry, top of the page there. So we got notification in October that the government had pulled the funding for the implementation phase of the Earby flood alleviation scheme, and that means that we've lost the 2.32 million, which was to do work on Weckliffe Beck, which would reduce the risk of flooding to Water Street. Now, I wrote to the chair of the Yorkshire Regional Flood and Coastal Committee. I've got a response to that, which I will be following through with an invitation for her to visit Earby and see for herself what the issues are. But in terms of the decision of the government, the Environment Agency, to pull that funding, I think this is the appropriate time for us to pass a resolution for the administration to protest vociferously at the withdrawal of that funding. The current situation is we have a feasibility study which will report by the end of this financial year, and that will come up with a series of, well, eventually we'll get a full business case, which is one of the gateways that the Environment Agency has. Although we'll get to that full business case position with a detailed list of schemes and options and proposals, we won't be in a position to implement it because there won't be the funding there. So given that the regularity of flooding in Earby is, you know, sort of like every 10 to 15 years, and the last time that Earby flooded was in 2015. It could well be that Beggaration will get a flood before this work is done, and we do not want to be in a position where we are bailing people out on Water Street that could have been saved the risk of flooding if that funding had been in place and we've been able to get on with the work. So what I would like to propose, in addition to the recommendations that we've got in paragraph 2, is a further resolution 2.5 that this council reiterates its request for the restoration of the funding for phase 3. It's the third phase of the flood alleviation work in Earby, and that we ask Jonathan Hinder, the relevant Secretary of State, to we ask Jonathan Hinder to support our request to the Minister for funding for that to be undertaken without any further delay. Seconded that. Anything further on that particular aspect? If not, can we take a vote on the whole 2.1 to 2.5? All those in favour? Thank you very much. That's carried. And item 10 is Treasury Management Mid-Year Report. This is where I thank officers very much for their assiduousness, yeah, that word, whatever it may be, in managing the reserves and the cash that we've got in the bank and maximising the interest that we receive off it. Anything that Karen, Dean, do you want to add on that one? So I would move that we accept the recommendation. Yep, seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. And item 11, medium-term financial plan. Sorry, was that a jeer? Okay, I think in terms of medium-term financial plan, we know that there are a lot of adverse factors working against us here. We've got the 560,000 cost shunting from the County Council that will hit us in terms of waste transfer unless we get a change of heart by the County Council on that, or there's other things that might happen. We have the net loss of hundreds of thousands of pounds from the unfair funding settlement, and because we don't have any figures on that and it's all going to be bundled up with the budget next week, we don't know what that will be. But those two items alone set us back £1 million, and on top of that we know that we've got the food waste collection costs. We know how much that is going to cost us. What we don't know is how much there will be in funding for the new burdens, and because over time all that will be wrapped up in the general revenue grant anyway, it's likely that it'll just be eroded. So that may be a problem for the new unitary authorities. But none of those movements are to our benefit. In terms of pensions, we are optimistic that there will be a reduction in the contribution rate. We are working hard to see whether we can maximise that reduction in the contribution rate. If we don't get the contributions brought down as low as they should be, you know, there's a real risk to jobs and services in the here and now, and if anybody's got any influence with pension fund committee members, I would ask them to exercise it in order that they vote the right way this time, which they didn't do the last time. So there is work to be done in terms of achieving a balanced budget next year, despite what Mr Langton said earlier on in terms of wanting a bit more resource for information governance. His very strong recommendation is that we can't have any growth apart from where he wants it.
It's important.
So I don't know whether Sarah's taking a picture or not. Are you taking a picture, Sarah?
I was taking an establishing shot.
An establishing shot, very good. Yeah, you can always lift them off Jonathan's live stream, you know. The strategy is set out here, and the recommendations there on in. So if I move those and we look to managing the resources as we ever have in a very sensible way, without slashing services, but making the council as efficient as we possibly can in order to provide the best quality services that we can. That's John.
Yeah, I'll happily second the recommendation set out. And just in relation to the pension fund, I mean, I think we've been over-contributing for the last couple of years, or higher than other Lancashire authorities, so I think we should get some kind of rebate, if you will, or, you know, contribution back. So, yeah.
There will be a reduction in the contribution rate, employee contribution rate. The question is whether we can maximise that.
Sure. Yeah.
And there is a job to be done with the pension fund committee.
That's right.
David.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that is built into this. So it is assumed that there will be some sort of reduction in the in the contribution. So that is already built into this.
Yeah, but it may be a different figure.
You know. Yes, exactly. So I looked at this, and I looked at the appendices as well, and the scenario modelling for reserves in the future. Obviously there is best case and worst case, and we hope we go to neither of them. But looking at the following 3 years, we have a net shortfall of £7.2 million, adding up to 3 years. So that's a hefty shortfall over 3 years. And it seems like, looking at the scenarios of best and worst, we could be down as low as 3.6 million, which would be a lovely day, or we could be up to £19.5 million, which is the worst case possible. And I draw members' attention to the covering note, which does say, I think it's paragraph 313, responsibility for doing the whole medium-term financial planning rests with the executive. And obviously the corporate leadership team, as we touched on earlier, are going to put forward a whole series of suggestions for you to consider and for the council to consider. So again, it factors into all of that. In terms of where that 7 million over the next 3 years, although the council may only last for 2 years, of course, with the local government reorganisation, based on that table of reserves, where does that knock off? Where does that come from? Do we have a general reserve?
David, you 3 years ago, you were the person in charge of finances at Peddle Council, and we've got you down recorded as saying in 3 years' time we will be in Section 141 territory. Now, quite frankly, you are always saying, oh, you know, in 3 years' time we won't have any money. But 3 years later, we're still in a healthy financial position. And last year, we added £1.1 million to reserves. Didn't take anything out. We put 1.1 million in. So I'm sorry, but your shroud waving is not perhaps the most appropriate thing. And given that 3 years ago you said we'd be 114, put me hand up. Saying that we'd be in 114 territory, and we are not, and we can see our way through to covering the next 3 years. I don't find your comments terribly helpful. You know, we will manage the situation. We don't know what the settlement is going to be. I referred to it as the unfair funding settlement because we are losing out. We've got lots of adverse things that are hitting us, but we will look at the positives to find out how we make that budget balance. And there is a determination on all members of the executive, of the administration, to ensure that we are in a healthy financial position, and that we continue to be in a healthy financial position. So I welcome your contributions, your suggestions, your ideas, but you know, I repeat, we are not going to be slashing services, we are not going to be making cuts, and I will just remind you that of that £7.2 million, that over 1.5 million, in fact 1.6 something million, is due to the cost shunting decision of the former Conservative County Council stuffing us for the waste transfer costs. So as a political group, you are not exactly blameless, and Ash, who lost his seat on the county council, actually voted for that cost shunting as part of the county council's budget before the elections. So, you know, don't come here and say, oh, you know, this, that and the other. Your track record is not that good, frankly. Dean, you want to come in. You won't be making a political point.
It's not for me to make political points. Just in terms of the numbers, so the numbers are already cumulative. So you're adding together cumulative numbers. So the worst case scenario is that it could be £7.7 million over 3 years. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
The better case scenario is that it could be 1.8 million over 3 years. The scenario in the medium-term financial plan that we're working on is that it could be £3 million. So that's the range that we're talking about. Okay. And they are ranges based on no action. So if we did nothing at all, then the situation would just get worse and worse and worse. And the track record of this council, like every council, is that acknowledging that position, work then goes on and presents to you at the executive or at council the actions that are necessary in order to balance the budget, because that's the statutory requirement of the council to do that. So, yeah, I don't think it's necessarily as stark as you portrayed, and equally we need to look at that in the context of, one, the reserves, two, then what actions are necessary in order to balance the budget. The purpose of the worst case scenario, of course, and if you look, the preceding appendix kind of gives you the things that have been considered in understanding what the worst case may be. Well, if all those go against us, then yeah, you know, in the same way as many other councils, we're going to be in a very difficult position. And I think, you know, the purpose of presenting these scenarios is to understand that that might be the case, but equally there will be some things that may go for us. So, you know, it's an attempt to provide you with this range of things that will affect us in one way or another. And the biggest one is, of course, the settlement, because none of us know really precisely what we'll get as a consequence of that. But it's just to illustrate the risks around some of this stuff.
Okay, so just to conclude then, obviously I'm eager to see the actions that that will come forward. I encourage you not to do what you've been doing for the last couple of years or so, which is obviously just putting your head in the sand and expecting interest income to bail us out, which is what has happened. I noticed in the 3-year plan that obviously the interest is going to be falling. So it seems like as well in the previous item as well, when we look at the results to date, that you're almost undershooting. So this year's budget might actually do quite well because of the amount of money we've still got in the bank because of the delays in the various projects. So we've been living off that one, and every time we have things like a budget working group, we don't get any particular steps forward.
Thank you, David.
So
right, I can assure you that no member of the executive or the administration has got the head in the sand, and I can assure you that we will be presenting budgets which will get us through to vesting day and sustain the services at Peddle Council and sustain the finances at Peddle Council. So 3 years ago you were saying Peddle Council will be bankrupt. Now we are not bankrupt. We've got reserves. We're in a healthy position. Thank you very much for the shroud waving, but no thanks to your Conservative cuts.
Thank you.
Anything further? Hanif?
No, Chair, can we just make progress because we've listened to this for many months and many years.
Yeah, but people have the right to...
I know. I think we need to just move on.
Okay, I've moved the recommendation. I think they were seconded. Are we all in favour?
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Right, that takes us to the forward plan. Any questions on that?
No, Chair.
No. Very good. I'm going to move the exclusion of press and public.
Second that.
Due to the confidential nature of the visitors to be transacted. John's shutting that down. We're going to take item 15 and item 16, and then whilst we're doing that, I'm going to pack my stuff up because I can go and get my tea.
Yeah,